everyone, it's Cass. Welcome back to my channel, What Cass Read. Today, we're going to talk about my thoughts on The Crimes of Grindelwald. This is a video that I wasn't really planning on filming, and I don't think I've actually done a video quite like this on my channel, where it's just my reactions, my thoughts to a movie that's out. I normally just stick to the books that I have been reading and all that stuff. There's so many things that I just have to get off my chest, because the more and more I thought about this movie, the more furious that I become. Now, I guess I'll make a disclaimer saying, number one, there's spoilers, and then number two, I'm a huge Potter fan. Obviously, I have shelled out the money for the official merch, which is not cheap, so I am deep enough in the fandom that I've got the gear. I've committed that hard. There's just so many things that I'm such a huge fan of this series for, and I think that's why I was ultimately super disappointed with The Crimes of Grindelwald. For those of you who haven't seen it, there are tons of really great critical reviews out there of why the filmmaking didn't work, because there's just a lot about the filmmaking aspects that ultimately did not succeed. J.K. Rowling as a screenwriter was not very successful, and now she's had 2 movies to prove it that she needs to go to film writing school because she's a novelist. So there's a lot of critical reviews about that out there. My thoughts are more or less just on when a series goes too far, that you as a fan are now completely disenchanted, you as a fan are let down, and you as a fan are ultimately dissatisfied with the direction that this new series is going, because it's one of those things where The Crimes of Grindelwald is, we are now in film 10 of the Wizarding World, and is that too much of a good thing, and have we run its course? So let's talk about the film, and there are some inconsistencies that I just couldn't let slide, and that's what has been bothering me about the film, I guess, this whole time. When we start the film, I already knew that I was in for a shit show when they put on the screen American Ministry of Magic. Why did that ring alarm bells for me? J.K. Rowling spent time on Pottermore and in the first Fantastic Beasts film calling it the Magical Congress of the United States of America, also known as MACUSA. She has a whole Pottermore thing that got a lot of heat for it, and she has a whole film of calling it MACUSA, and then all of a sudden, the very beginning of this film, it's just, oh, that's not true anymore, it's the American Ministry of Magic. Well, the first one, let's talk about Jacob and Queenie, where they just show up to Newt's house, and he's like, oh, hey, Jacob, what's going on? And then he was like, oh, yeah, you remember that memory charm? Didn't work on me, didn't take. We're good. I remember everything because it was so happy and fun for me. Okay. There was a lot that could have happened in between when we last saw Jacob and when we see Jacob now. And he's like, oh, hey, what's up? I remember all the things. And then Credence, of course. Credence is alive. How come we just find out that Credence is alive working for this French magical circus? How did he get there? Why are we just like taking this really climactic ending in terms of the action and the emotion in the first film, and then when we get to this film, J.K. Rowling's like, erase all of those things because we're starting a new film and I can do whatever I want. That's what those 2 moments really felt like to me. There's so many inconsistencies and liberties that J.K. Rowling did that it's like, nope, forget about everything that happened in the original series, because since I'm the one writing this, it's like officially canon now, and you just have to deal with it. I shouldn't have to put up with it because you already gave me a really complete series, so I shouldn't have to put up with this like mediocrity, and just because you're the one writing it and no one is gonna tell you no. There's magical incontinuity here. I wasn't a fan of them just doing spells and just doing magic. Yes, this is predicated on fans who have read the Harry Potter series and know what spells are. So if you've taken enough time to teach people what these spells are, this magic in this film actually doesn't match the magic from the first films. Like, why are people just able to repair buildings with the flick of their wand? That to me seems like a really complicated spell, and as we learned in the Harry Potter series, as the magic progressed, things got harder and harder and harder and harder, and people had to practice these things. So you're telling me that every single Auror in the United States of America can just flick their wand and repair Manhattan? This one, I felt like Credence, him just being able to perform magic at the end and blow up a mountain, where did that come from? I thought he was incapable of being able to control his magic. And so you hand him a wand and all of a sudden he's able to just blow up a mountain. What? That seemed way too extreme of a magical jump for me, even in a movie about magic. When I first walked out of this movie, I was like, the one word that I would describe this film was unnecessary. Everything about it was so unnecessary. When I went to this film, I went with my friend and my husband. Neither one of them have read the books as much as I have. My friend has read them once through. My husband has never read them. So you would think that this is like their prime demographic for these new films. And at the very end, when they reveal that Credence is a Dumbledore, my husband turned to me and he was like, did I miss something? So even someone who is supposed to be following the story based on the medium at which you're presenting to us now with this new film, he didn't even understand where that came from. We had 5 minutes of a flashback at Hogwarts, and to me, I just really felt like that was supposed to be just like fan service, like, oh look, see, remember I made good stuff because we're going back to Hogwarts. And it's like, but is this necessary for this whole story? Is this necessary for me to really know what's going on with Grindelwald and Dumbledore? Isn't that the main conflict? Isn't that the main reason why we're all here? There were too many different plot lines going on that didn't add up to a really fleshed out story, a really well fleshed out story. We had great acting and we had great characters. There's got to be something good in here somewhere, but the fact that they tried to throw too many things in at once, like, this is exactly why I'm saying that this is what happens when you have too much of a good thing, when the story itself maybe has run its course, because now we're trying to add all these things to it, and since we didn't do it with enough care, everything got lost. Everything got lost in the shuffle. I think especially everything got lost in the shuffle with female characters. So let's talk about Leta Lestrange. So Leta Lestrange has this tragic backstory and we're supposed to love it and we're supposed to feel something for it. But really what we find out through plot twist number 1, she has a brother, and then plot twist number 2, she switched a baby, but we find out Lestrange imperioused her mother, this black, beautiful woman, because he had to have her. So am I supposed to imply that she fell in love with him because she was under the Imperious curse? So you get into all sorts of weird lines with consent, and so Leta is born through this union and then basically shoved aside once her younger white brother comes along. It was intentionally done this way because they said that Leta Lestrange was always supposed to be cast as a woman of color. Was she supposed to be cast as a black woman? I don't know, but she was. Then we have Nagini. That's been fleshed out already, about this story of this exotic dragon lady who turns into a snake. She turns into a snake, and Nagini had no bearing on the story. She didn't add anything. She probably said 10 words the whole time, and it was supposed to be, was it supposed to be something that brought me nostalgic back to the original story? Because we had this murderous slave of Voldemort is actually a human woman who was trapped there, so we're supposed to think that she has these feelings and she's a really complex character, but you gave her 10 words in the whole movie. She had no bearing, and her role was defined by Credence. Her role in the Harry Potter franchise is defined by Voldemort. Nagini has never been her own individual, independent character, and so that's just another woman that you've tacked onto another man in this franchise with racial implications that you can't ignore in a movie like this. You just can't ignore that you cast an Asian woman to turn into a snake. And then if we're going to talk about the rest of the females in this movie, they did a really big disservice to Queenie. I'm pretty upset with her storyline because in the first film, like, as we're getting introduced to these new characters, you have this Legilimens who uses her power and her sensuality and her sexuality to befriend people, and she manages to make her way in the world in the United States of America in the 1920s as a woman who really shouldn't have much say in how things go. She still is able to use her charm and her sexuality and her sensuality to her advantage, and then she's relegated to this film as someone who is just pining after a man and someone who is just love-struck and has no self-confidence and no self-assurance that this man really does want to be with her. When she can read his mind, she's a Legilimens, to make her have to trick Jacob into marrying her via love potion. And oh, I was tired of that. And Tina, you know, Tina's competing for Newt's affection, but not really. She's playing hard to get. She's mad at him. He's not communicating with her. That's an overdone, tired, I'm over it storyline. We don't have to deal with Newt's feelings for Lita because they end up killing Lita anyway. It's just another female role in this movie that is defined by the male character. And then I am gonna bring it up. As far as erasing female characters from the main part of the narrative of this story, we have Ariana Dumbledore, or the lack of Ariana Dumbledore, because at the very end of the first movie, I was so excited over the prospect of being able to truly dive deep into the Dumbledore family history. And I thought by introducing the idea of the Obscurial, what it meant for that magic to violently burst out of young wizards, it was the exact description that we got of Ariana Dumbledore. And if you're gonna name Credence a Dumbledore, which the timeline doesn't work, nothing about the Credence is a Dumbledore storyline works, but if you're gonna take Ariana's place, you've erased a completely beautiful, complex female character role from this storyline, and I'm not here for that. I think it's trash. I would have liked to have Credence be just a completely different Obscurial and just someone to give us context for what happened between Dumbledore and Grindelwald. Now, I've heard theories that people are like, well, I think, what's his name? I think Grindelwald is just lying about him being a Dumbledore. I guess I don't care because that's, at this point, the only theory that I'll accept. Because it's just false, it's fake, it has to be. I don't like how they have tiptoed around the idea of Dumbledore being gay. I know we were warned about that, but it was still pretty stupid to see. Why make Dumbledore gay? And then this conflict is about this young boy who has excited him when they were children, and give us this backstory that Dumbledore was in love with Grindelwald and that leads to their final conflict. And you don't want to make a movie about this. That is the movie. That is the story. The conflict between Dumbledore and Grindelwald getting us to this penultimate duel, it makes it less of a Harry versus Voldemort thing, this good versus evil thing. It gives us dimension, it gives us relationship, it gives us family, it gives us love. And you're just gonna gloss over it? It's so dumb. That was actually what I said at the very end of the film, like when I turned to my friend and my husband, I was like, that was so fucking dumb. I guess that's all I have to say about this, which is a lot, and I don't even know if it's something that you really wanted to see, but I just needed to talk about it because it was something that's been on my mind for the last couple of days. What are your thoughts? Tell me in the comment section below. You can also find me on my social media if you want to talk to me there. I'm on Twitter and Instagram. It's @WhatCastRead. It's the same as this channel, so it's super easy to find. And then, of course, my Goodreads link is always going to be down below. Sorry that we had to have such a Debbie Downer kind of video. But that's what you get when you get a Debbie Downer kind of film. Ugh. All right, I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.